So welcome to Scrapbook Live. I am Megan Jacks. Today is July 2nd, and today's layout I have for you is something I created a couple years ago when Copper Canyon came out, and it was all about showing off the papers in the Copper Canyon collection. So one thing to note with this particular layout is the handout is very specific to Copper Canyon, simply because I was trying to make certain papers work for the layout. So we have a lot more flexibility when we're working with other collections. You can either, if you're working with front and backs of papers, if you're working with just one side of papers, cardstock. So I'm going to kind of talk about it from both directions, what to do if you're working with a very specific set versus the flexibility that you have when you're just kind of like, I'm just going to go based on some measurements of these pieces I need to cut, and we'll put it together however it fits best. So let me go ahead and switch to my overhead camera and we'll get going. So I am going to be using the Getting Outside collection today. The papers, they go with the Noteworthy collection. I do have one of the Noteworthy papers in here. I liked this texture of this tonal blue. Even though there is a second side, you can see of the Getting Outside, there is this lovely kind of blue, but I really liked this texture. And I thought that these four pieces, these four colors together would look really good. I am going to build it on medium craft cardstock. The one thing to note in here, in this middle picture where you're seeing that I am putting that 7x7 triangle or square in the middle, it is because when I made this layout, I did not want to cover up all of that pretty, I called it the umber paint paper. I did not want to cover that all up with these triangles. We do cover quite a bit of the paper with the triangles. So what I did is I found the way to, we just need a 7x7 square. You can rotate it, you get it in there, and it'll give you a faux background. Now I am using the medium craft cardstock, so I don't care so much if I cover up a lot of my paper. I need a base anyway, and I want the middle to be that the medium craft. So I'm just going to skip this step. If you are working with a piece of paper, or you want your middle to be a piece of paper that you have limited amount of, such as something from a secret box when we don't know if we can get another paper pack, this technique will work. You'll use a 7x7 square, and I give you those measurements on how to tilt it on your paper. You can see there, you'll have one corner at 7 inches, the other corner at 5, and then coming around to 7 and 5. That gives you the proper tilt on your layout to be able to get all the pieces in together. So the other part of here that I want to note when you're looking at this cut guide, where it says wood texture paper, paper number 1. We actually use both sides of this paper. So we could kind of say it's similar to this paper here, where I'm technically going to be using both sides of it. So what I would be able to do is cut two rectangles from the same sheet. The rectangles are all 10x6. We then cut those on the diagonal, but they would be 10x6. I would use one side, and then I would use the other side. So if you are using one piece of paper that you're using both sides of it, you will want to follow the wood texture paper cut guide. All right, so that's kind of a thing there. If you have a piece of paper that you have both sides, that you want both sides of. Now the caveat to that, and I'm going to run into this piece apart a little bit, is I have to make the decision, how do I want to cut my paper? And I think I'm going to be okay, because my paper, if you look here, the wood grain is going the both directions. The same direction on both sides. So I've got this kind of a horizontal pattern here with all my colors, and I kind of have that same horizontal pattern here. So I think what I'm going to do when I make my rectangles, they're going to sit here like this. There'll be two rectangles this direction. Now I need two other pieces of a 10x6 paper. I have a scrap here of this blue. I'm going to cut a 10x6 rectangle, and I'll do the same thing from this piece. I'll cut a 10x6 rectangle. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll dive right into this. You want to have 4 different patterns. You could use cardstock, you could use shimmer paper. That's kind of to your discretion. I do have on the wood text, or the first paper, I have two 1x12 inch pieces. Those pieces, you will want to have something that's going to go behind whatever you punch on your triangle. For this particular design, it worked out to have the back side of this paper. It was kind of this pretty aqua color. So I went and used that there, but you just need to know that you need 2 1-inch pieces that are going to go sit behind whatever you punch. I do not, I'll go ahead and cut mine. I'll cut it. I'm not sure I'll use those pieces, but I'll cut them anyway, just in case. So I'm going to show you how we cut the first paper. So I need to cut my 1x2 strips off, but the thing to note is the direction of my paper. I want my rectangles to be this direction, so I want to cut in the middle here. But that's not my first cut. I need to cut the 2 1-inch strips off the top. So I'm going to rotate my paper and I'm going to cut 2 1-inch strips. So there's one, and here's the second one. Now I should be left with a 10-inch section here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it at 6 inches. Cut it in half at 6 inches. That will give me my 2 10 by 6 inch rectangles. Both my rectangles here are the same pattern, is facing up. If I wanted to cut my diagonals right now, I would need to make sure I cut them in opposite directions. If I cut this piece, I would cut it on from the the lower left to the upper right. I would need to cut the next piece from the upper left to the lower right. That's the thing to note when you're looking at your paper. If you're using the front and back of the same sheet, you need to cut them in opposite directions. So that's what you need to do. I'm just going to leave it there because I want to show you the option if you're not using the same paper. Just note, if you are using the same piece of paper, you need to follow this. Now, the other option, flip your paper over, set it in your pile. I've got 2 different patterns. It doesn't matter that they're from the same sheet. I've got 2 patterns. That's all we're going to worry about. 2 6x12 or 6x10 rectangles. Now I need 2 more. I need a total of 4 6x10 rectangles. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this other one. I'm going to cut this at 6 inches. And then I'll cut 2 inches off. These pieces are scrap. You may be working from scrap paper. My next cut is from a remnant. So I'm going to cut this at 6 inches wide. And then I'll cut 2 inches off. That'll give me a 6x10. So now what I have is 4 different 6x10 pieces. Now, before we start cutting, I want you guys to visualize this. This technique works the best if you're visualizing it. And I just realized I do not have my second mat. So I'm actually gonna, just real quick, I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my second mat here. It'll be easy for us to set this up and show you how this all works. So I've got my background paper. This is where if you have your squares I think I show it in what I list, this right here. This is where you'd want to put those 7x7 squares. If you have them, I give you the measurements on how you can tilt them just right to work with your triangles. However, if you need to, you can just work with whatever cardstock or your base paper and don't worry about the squares, which is what I'm doing. So when we do triangles like this, the one thing I want you to think about a triangle, I'm going to use this paper for example. I'm going to set it up here. And if I cut on this direction, what's going to happen is I'm going to end up, this piece of paper here. I would have a triangle here. I would cut it on the diagonal. And I would pull this opposite piece over to here. So that's going to tell me where I cut my triangle. So this is not I don't want to use this piece here. That's not where I want to put that piece. I actually want to use, I think I'm going to use the brown because ultimately this brown is the one I'm going to punch. So if I have this piece up here, I'm gonna wanna cut it from the lower left to the upper right. So what I would do is I'd grab my trimmer, put my thumbs on the corners that I wanna cut, and I would lay it in my trimmer with my thumbs on my cutting line. So here we go. I'm gonna cut the first one. These pieces then get moved to opposite corners. We'll come back and punch these later. So whatever, to me, the design worked best. Whatever I put in the opposite corners here, that's gonna be the one we punch. So something that is gonna allow you to see your punch design is gonna work great. Cardstock, more of a tonal paper, something really not super high contrast. That is why I didn't use this one. I don't think this one's gonna show the punch as well, which is why I wanted to go the brown. Now, the next piece that we're gonna cut, the trick for this is you actually cut them all on the same diagonal. They just get put around your paper differently. So the same diagonal that you cut, as long as you have your 4 different sides are facing up, you will cut them all on the same diagonal. So they'll all be cut when you're looking at your rectangle with the 10-inch on the side, 6-inch across the top. You'll cut them from the lower left to the upper right. Lower left to the upper right. This design, you really do want to make sure you take your time to cut your triangles correctly or to line them up. Because what you can see here is this piece then slides down over here. This next piece would be this direction. I'm going to cut it along here. This piece will slide up here. So again, it's still lower left here, upper right. It just rotates. Lower left to upper right. You can start to see here how it's going to take shape. And what's nice about it is it does give us that flexibility then to arrange our triangles in whichever way works best. So if I think that maybe my blue and my green need to swap positions, no problem. Now I have this set up where all of the tips of the triangle are underneath. You could set this up to where they are on top. Let me show you what that looks like. It just gives you a little bit of a different look. You can maybe see more of the triangle effect here. So you can see I've got the tips are out, where here the tips are under. So you just kind of have to make your decision on how you want that to look, but you've got some flexibility now. You can dry fit this whole thing and make your determination. Some of it may depend on how you put your photos on, whether you feel like you want to see a little bit more pattern out here, or if you're good with having it and you just kind of like that cut off triangle look. So you've got some options there. All right, now it's time to punch. I am going to be using Cyclic circles for mine because I am doing my June monthly layout, and I have been using Cyclic circles. I've been using square link chain. I have been using, I think I used Ancient Key in another one of my monthly layouts. I'm kind of keeping a little bit of a, picking just a few of the different punches I want to use, and I just love Cyclic circles anyway. So we're going to be using Cyclic circles. You can use a knockout style punch, which is what Cyclic circles is. How do I know it's a knockout? Because one, I can see that I'm clear to the edge with the metal on both sides. I just kind of know looking at the design. If I look at that design, I've got the shiny straight across the top and straight across the bottom. That tells me it's gonna stay attached. As compared to something that is an edge style, you could do an edge style on this as well. That would look really pretty in here. You're gonna have a decorative edge. You could use a decorative blade when cutting your triangles. That gives you just a real subtle look. You could use the decorative trimmer if you wanted to and give yourself the wavy look. That would kind of be interesting. You'd have to play a little bit around with it with how that works. I would probably cut some scrap paper first. You can use a chain border maker here. And what you would imagine, so I just got just some random laser cut border here this is from the Legacy of Love. So the other side is this kind of pretty beigey color. I'm going to show you the white simply because I want it to be high contrast. What you'd be able to do is just come in and lay it on the edge of one of your pieces. So you're kind of giving yourself that decorative edge along one of your the triangles. That's really what the goal is here. I'm going to do it by punching, but you've got various options to be able to add that decorative edge. Now you can go in and give yourself a decorative edge on all of them, but I would probably start off with one edge and see how you like it, but you can play around as you want with others. It might be kind of fun, just thinking about it, you could probably come in with more of a statement edge here, and then if you really wanted to, you could come in with something like double rickrack and come in with a very subtle border along these other pieces if you wanted to. All right, so now it's time to go ahead and punch with the border maker system. I'm going to just put it in my, put my cartridge in my cartridge holder. I'm going to slide this out of the way for right now. What I want to do is I'm going to come in here with this paper and I'm going to line it up on the angle. This is going to be my straight edge that goes all the way into my paper holder and comes out of the lip here. And I'm going to line it up, close my piece. You can see there I'm lined up here at the top. I don't extend all the way to the bottom, but we just want to make sure that angle, you're going to punch that angle. And then we'll go ahead and punch. So there's my piece. So now I'm going to come in, pull all this debris off, and I will go ahead and punch my other piece as well. You can really think of these triangles as these opposite triangles as pieces just to decorate. I could come in with more embellishments. I've got a lot of space up here. I'm probably going to come in with my title, but also might experiment around a little bit. I'm going to see, my thought was maybe layering on additional borders on that edge. So let me bring back over my triangle or my other paper, my other side, the right page. Before I go too much further, what I do want to do is figure out what I'm going to put under here. I want this to pop off the page a little bit more, this design. So I initially punched these pieces, or cut. If you cut those 1-inch strips, you may have strips there that you can work with, but you may also have other 1-inch strips. Scrap paper is a various thing. I could come in with, if I wanted to, I could come in with my opposite. I could come in with my green. That would be really pretty, pulling some of that green over to the other side. I don't really care for it. That green has quite a bit of a design to it. Even on here, you really start to lose the circle design. It's a little more apparent in person on camera since you're kind of far away. You don't see it as well. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in with some brown shimmer paper. I think I'm going to make it just pretty easy. Come in with some brown shimmer paper. Cut a couple of 1-inch strips and I'll back those triangles with the brown shimmer paper. So there you can start to see what that looks like. I'll cut the other one here in a minute. The one thing I like, and the one reason I decided I wanted to use brown shimmer paper, I have a lot of mid tones here, a lot of mid. I've got a mid beige or brown, mid, slightly darker, and a lot of mids. Coming in with that darker tone is going to give me more depth. I will probably matte my photos in the brown shimmer as well. So let me go ahead and cut another piece at 1 inch, and then I will put this on the back of my triangles, of my punched triangles. Get that all adhered on. How many of you guys have already dived in to get the Repo Jumbo adhesive, the jumbo refill for the repositionable adhesive? I did. It has not arrived. I think I get my order tomorrow from Creative Memories. I usually, if I order on Monday, I usually get it by Thursday. There we go. So I've got the piece here. Now I'll just grab my scissors and I'll trim off the overhang, because you will have a little bit of overhang there. You could use your trimmer too if you want to be even more precise. I see Kristen's comment that she's waiting until Monday to order as she's worried they'll run out. So I hope they ordered quite a bit of the Repo. They know we all love Repo adhesive, and they kind of got a vibe for how many people wanted the tape gun simply because with the regular. I do know they sold out of the regular, the gun that holds the regular. It comes pre-filled with the regular. They are sold out of that. It's going to be back in November, so a little bit of wait. But I think the refills, I think they'll be okay to wait until Monday. So we do have another launch on Monday. So if you haven't ordered now, you might as well. I mean, we'll find out what's coming next week. We'll find that out, I think, on Thursday. So it's all good there. Judy's saying that she prefers the little one. I will admit, I'm kind of the same way. I like the precision. I feel like I get with that little one. So I do have the big one. You probably won't see me using it on camera simply because I feel like I'm a little bit whack-a-mole with it because I haven't quite adapted to it. I did talk to somebody who they had to force themselves to use it because they ran out of other adhesive, and they really liked it once they got used to it. So there's all sorts of possibilities there. Now, the next thing I mentioned before that I thought about, like, we could come in and layer some additional pieces in here that I can maybe come in and get a little more decorative on these corners. So one of the things I want to try it. I want to see, and what I'm going to do is I think I will actually come in and I'm going to punch cyclic circles with this punch or this piece of paper. So let me grab that. And this is experimenting. I'm kind of going off the road with this, or I'm going off the handout. We're going off handout. Well, that's what we'll call it when we're starting to get, we're going rogue. We're going off handout. I'm going to punch. I'm only going to punch one just to see what I think. I want to trim this. I'm going to trim this to about 1 1/8 inches. That is roughly the same. It should give me a strip that's about the same on both sides, roughly. I do want to imagine what it would look like. It needs something behind it. So I'm going to add a little bit of contrast paper behind it. I'm going to come in with this pretty blue. I could use Vista Shimmer here. The Vista Blue Shimmer with the Getting Outside and even just the Noteworthy collection is really, really pretty. If you want a little bit of sparkle, I'm getting some sparkle in there with my brown shimmer. I definitely like my brown shimmer. So what I want to imagine is, like, what does another row of, now I'm not sure I like the blue there. And then what I would envision is even another piece that would come in here, one more. So I'd actually end up with kind of like 3 rows of, and maybe what I need, maybe I just don't like trying to figure out what I don't necessarily care for about it. Because sometimes you look at it, you're like, I just don't care for that. It's not really working for me. And you don't always know exactly why. Why is it not working? I think maybe because this needs to sit under, this will sit under, this will sit on top. I chose the green because it's opposite this green, for the green side to be up. And maybe what I need is actually to grab that Vista Shimmer Yeah, I think part of my issue there was maybe that it just wasn't working. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, and this is a technique that I've seen, and I haven't done it yet, and I think it was shared in the virtual crop group. I've seen some people in Summer Scrap doing it. You've probably seen it already, is weaving in with the weaving of cyclic circles. So I'm going to show that one. I did not come up with this. It looks like we're going to be just over 1/2 inch. A generous 1/2 inch. When I say a generous 1/2 inch, I mean you don't go all the way to the next line past 1/2 inch. You're just making sure you definitely cover up the line. I am going to grab a sheet, and I have to grab another sheet of Vista Shimmer. My scrap, I can't get that cut down. So I said just a little more than 1/2 inch, just a smidge more. I'm not quite at 9/16. I know I used the word 16ths. And I'm going to see if I can weave this in. And I'm going to go like I'm going to just, I don't know. I haven't woven yet so I don't know how this is going to work. Oh, that worked great. So you're kind of seeing where I'm heading with this. Just giving myself some options. I think because I have such a tight space here, one of the concerns I have is you really, really can't see that the weave. You can't, it's hard to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go truly every other one. We'll go with a tighter weave with in and out of every other. Definitely probably should go with more of that 9/16, maybe even not quite 5/8. Yeah, I needed that the tighter weave for sure. That's going to work better. The benefit of doing that, of just having a little bit of extra something up here, is I've got a tighter space now that when I put my June's a short word, right? Short. It's kind of ridiculously short, but it's great because I didn't have to punch a lot of letters. I can then come in and do June up here, and I'm going to have my title. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to have to come in with maybe a different something up there. Different color. I don't know that I'm digging the brown. What I may end up doing is actually I could slice. I have scraps of this medium craft. I might do medium craft as like behind it and like double the letters. So I have a little bit of a highlight. That'll let it pop off the page a little bit more. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make another one of these pieces here, the border. And then I'll mimic it on the other side and I'll finish putting this whole kit and caboodle together. So I need to punch another border out of I call it like a trellis. It kind of makes me think of like a garden trellis. Doesn't it make you think of that? You know, so we punch it, then we cut it, and then we'll weave it. So 1 1/8 inches. Making sure I'm lined up where I want to be. 1 1/8 inches. Oh, Deb's saying that something didn't work for her. So hopefully it's something you're able to figure out. If you cut it the wrong direction, your angles, you kind of just have you just make sure you cut everything the same direction, and your stuff will go the opposite way. So, or you can flip the paper over and kind of make it work. The big thing is we have 4 different patterns. Make sure you cut them all the same way. So if you do the first one the wrong way, make them all the wrong way. And they're not really the wrong way. They're just the opposite way. I put my trimmer away, but I still need that slightly bigger. Well, I've got to cut it the same. So I already cut the first one closer to like that 9/16. So I've got to cut this next one the same. That's the only thing is when you realize, oh, I should have done it. Well, I've already done one way. I've got to do the second one the exact same way so they match each other. So Deb's saying she ended up with a triangle in the middle. That could be possible. I'm trying to think of how that would be. I'm wondering if your papers were different sizes. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. You'll have to take a picture and show us. It's fine though. If you have a diamond in the middle, that's perfect. You just have a space in the middle. So it's all good. It's all good. Everybody loves to see the variations, right? And we don't have to call them a mistake. They're just pleasant surprises. So I'm weaving my next piece. This piece I definitely cut that 9/6 a little bit wider. And it's not harder to weave in, but it's definitely catching a little bit more. Oh, Kristen's commenting on my tan. Yeah, I'm tan, but I'm starting to notice definitely some sunspots. I need to be better about putting suntan lotion on if I go out into the pool in the afternoon. I will admit, usually once I get past my first burn, I don't burn. So I don't think about it. And when I say my first burn, usually it's like a medium, like not terrible. And I really do need to be better about it. I was in the pool yesterday for about an hour and I really didn't have, and it was after 3 o'clock working its way to 4. And usually towards the end of the day, the sun isn't as intense. So I do need to be better about it. Because I don't want, the tan is one thing. These sunspots that are popping up are definitely not what I would like to have. And I know some of them are inevitable with aging. That's just kind of how it goes. But I think this is where I'm going. So what I've got going on here is just a little more bling maybe than my overall layout, the initial sample I showed you guys with the Copper Canyon. But what I'm really wanting to highlight is the fact that you have some options. I could carry this border detail further if I wanted to. I could punch another border with maybe another color. What would be nice probably is coming with a medium craft and bring some of that internal neutral out to the edges. I will be doing that up here with June. I will come in with a little bit, I think I'll punch June with the scrap of the medium, the craft, and that will be up here as kind of that highlight. So now let me go ahead and start adhering all the pieces together. So when you do this, you kind of just pick where you want to start, just kind of keeping in mind how things are going to overlap. So what I'm going to do is I know this whole section is going to be under. It's right on the paper. I'm going to leave this a little bit flappy so that I can insert my other piece. So let me go ahead. I'm going to use just some regular adhesive. The narrow tips, I do like to come in with my repo and just make sure, well, you probably don't need to in this particular case because they will be under another piece. But here you can see I left my wider angle here of my triangle. I have my right angle. I have these are both acute angles. I don't know, I'll probably get into some geometry, all roll in your eyeballs. I only think about this because Cody this year in school learned about triangles. And so he learned right triangles, isosceles, equilateral, acute angles, obtuse angles, kind of crazy stuff like that. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure when you're doing this is you're leaving adhesive off of this bigger section over here. That's going to allow you to get everything tucked under, and then you can go back and fill in those spaces. So see here, it's a little flappy here. What I'll be able to do is just come in, add some adhesive. Here would be a good spot on this corner to add some repo to make sure it stays down really well. This piece is going to sit under. I am going to go ahead and attach my border to my triangle, and so I can get it all cut off and trimmed up before I put on the triangle. And I'm just eyeballing it. Grab my scissors. Cut off those extras. Cutting off the extra, and then I'm just going to look around and make sure nothing's too flappy, I guess. Put on my adhesive. And it sits up in this corner. This piece I will just go ahead and pull back, add some repo adhesive. Down that piece, and it's good to go. Finally, one last piece to put in place on this page, and then everything else on the right page goes pretty much the same way. It sits under. I guess this last piece, I definitely could have gone ahead and put that adhesive on. So there's my, the left page. The right page is going to go together very much the same way. I've got a little bit, let me see how fast I can get this put together. I want to talk a little bit about putting photos on here. I don't know what photos I'm going to use. As I mentioned in my post, kind of with a sneak peek of what I was going to be using, or the supplies I was using, I didn't take a lot of photos in July or June. Apparently, I just didn't. I mean, I've lots of photos of my cat. I have some photos of Cody playing in the pool, and those will get printed. I did message my son, my oldest. He and his girlfriend moved into their rental house in Pullman earlier in June. And so I asked him to send me pictures of that. And he sends me one picture of them on the porch. It was kind of just funny. They're like, seriously, like one picture of like really far away. They're on like they have a second floor of a duplex. And just like, really, this is the best you could do? I need to tell him, like, have your girlfriend send me some pictures. She's got to have something more exciting. So I see a question from Crystal asking if there's a way to fix a miscut if you don't have another sheet. You can try to do a paper weld of your piece of paper back together. So what you'd be doing is imagine this is the same sheet, and say you miscut from a larger sheet. You could try to paper weld your piece back together and then do the opposite cut. That way you'll have a thing in the middle and that is okay. You probably, if you get your seams tight, you wouldn't even notice it. So that's something to consider if you have that type of a situation. That's usually what I have to do, is just pretty much be like, well, let me hope for the best by paper welding this back together and see what happens. So I'm just working opposite corners for things. So the blue is going to come up here, and the blue sits there. This piece sits here. Let's see. So yeah, I think I got so Kevin sent me, he sent me a picture of the cat. His girlfriend has a cat. His name is Bob. So I got a picture of Bob, which is fine. I mean, I'd take a picture of Bob. But then, like I said, just some very small, far away picture of them both. And so I'll go through text messages and see what I have. That's kind of, what do you do when you don't have a lot of things from that particular month? My other layouts, I have mostly focused on pictures themselves. Wait, this goes on the underneath. I have focused mostly on photos rather than focusing on like getting screenshots of headlines and news things. I think I've done before. I've posted the weather. I've done a screenshot of the weather. So that is something that I might do. I think I did a screenshot of one of the 10-day forecasts as it's getting warmer and warmer in Phoenix. I think I grabbed one of those. And I do have a ton of pictures of Cody playing in the pool. I think I did a layout with those for Scrapbook or for Summer Scrap. So those of you in that one, you know which one I'm talking about. Oops. I got a little crazy with my adhesive. Thank goodness for the multi-purpose tool. There we go. Okay, so it's all, oops, one last bit to put in place. Again, my gosh, I am getting a little crazy here with this. Too much yapping and not enough paying attention to what I'm scrapping. There we go. That's gonna work. So here's my layout. I will put my title across the top, and I will come in probably with some brown shimmer mats. I might look into seeing, I think I showed, if I can find it, I've got this fun kind of clipboard thing if I wanted to. I might cut it down to be a little narrower. I could actually fussy cut around it if I really want to kind of get rid of the medium. If I wanted to come down here in this corner and put it in, I would probably fussy cut all the way around it. The punch corner should be out according to the handout. Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can do that. Thank you for pointing that out. I wasn't really paying attention. Let me see if I can lift this punch corner without, I've got kind of some pieces here to try to convince that they need to be lifted. And that probably makes sense simply from the standpoint I did take all that effort to make that pretty border. So let me do that. I can lift without doing too much damage. Again, multi-purpose tool to the rescue. I think I need to make some adjustments though to this whole piece. I think it's on here a little wonky. So thank you, Lori, for pointing that out, because I do like that. I do like being able to see, you take more of that time to put together that decorative element and you want to see more of it. So that does look a lot better. Okay, so here we go. June will come up here at the top. And then I'm going to just grab some various size pieces. I've got some 4x6s. I think on my handout, I used 4x6s and 4x4s. So these represent the sizes of what I would use the mats for. I can come in here. I have to do some adhesive. Let me grab. Oh, I don't have any 4x4s to cut. Let me see. Do I? Nope, those are 3x3s. I'm just looking around. So I could do a 4x4 right here. And this is just going with the basic concept of what I showed in the handout. You can, of course, make adjustments as you need to. The great thing about 4x6s is that you can peekaboo pocket. I could come in using out of Noteworthy collection. I do have mats that are 4.5 by 6.5 inch mats. So I've got some mats that I could choose from. There's some really pretty colors that pick up a little bit of a different vibe. Like there's just auxiliary colors. So I could come in here if I wanted to accent this. In the original Copper Canyon, it had those really pretty frames. So the one image that's kind of the focal image does have a little bit more of like oomph to it because it was the mat was being used, that frame. So just looking through here, looking through my mats to see what I have available, I could come up here and choose to accent one if I wanted to, or two. I mean, you can see here that I've got some great options here. 4.5 by 6.5. I could come over here. The 4.5 by 4.5 might be tight to get a 4x4 in here, but I could definitely do something where I'd have a 3x4 photo with a 3.5 by 4.5 inch mat. And that gives me still space. We're seeing a lot of the design elements too. I can peekaboo pocket if I need to have other photos. And I do have a nice mixture of horizontal and vertical photos, which I think is really important. I know I try to be better when I'm taking my photos to get a mixture of horizontal and vertical. But you know, sometimes you need all of one, and that's great. You can adapt the layout to make it work for you, but definitely a lot of flexibility in this. So this is kind of the direction I'm going with it. I actually do like those mats in there. So I may have to see what else. Oh, I have another. I think I had two sets. They're a little different. They're slightly tonally different. So I'd have to see. This one would match. I could come over here and come in like this. Let me see what else I've got. It's always good to use up mats. So options and then a coat. I do have this cute little title. That might be fun. I might see if I can get this cut down into space. That might be cute there. And like I said, I don't have a ton of photos here. So this one, I might be relying on using bigger photos because I have fewer, or I will come in and use some bigger decorative elements that I might have passed over on some other layouts where I had more photos. So that's kind of the thing here. I also will plan to come back and look through screenshots. I will see if I can get any news headlines that are any relevant. I'm going to go through my text messages. I know I have a message from Kevin saying that he got an internship this fall, which is I'm so excited to hear from him. He's going to be a senior at college, so it's really good to have that internship lined up. I'll go through and see my husband sent me a bunch. My husband went to a tournament for Cody this last weekend for lacrosse. I didn't get to go. I didn't get to take pictures. I told him, take pictures, take videos. I think there's four photos and there's like no videos. And so I'm going to have to just maybe take some text message screenshots that he was kind of keeping me informed of what was going on. There's a couple of photos that are good, but there's not a lot. So I'll have to kind of make it. And also I can't put too many of those on here simply because I'll have a whole layout for him in his book that is the tournament of, like one page to talk about a full weekend tournament. Yeah. When I went to the full weekend tournament, I probably got like 8 pages worth of photos. They won't all make it into the album. So that's what I have for you guys today. So very exciting. Thanks for joining me. I would say I'll be back next week. We'll have another Scrapbook Live. We know that there's a launch on Monday, so tomorrow is the 3rd, and we should have our newsletter from Creative Memories announcing what's coming on Monday, so stay tuned for that. And then Virtual Crop is going to be next week, Power Hours in a couple weeks. We're still just grooving right through summer. Cody starts school in a month, so it's kind of crazy. And then, yes, Maureen's mentioned it, happy 4th of July for those here in the U.S. We hope you have a very safe holiday weekend. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Hopefully you'd have a good time, stay safe. And then we'll talk about, I want to give you guys a real quick tip on taking pictures of fireworks because I discovered this, and I'm sure it's not a secret. It's just the first time I happen to have done it. Use the video feature of your phone. Take a video of the fireworks and then come back in and do a still screenshot, or usually most of the phones nowadays allow you can like pause the phone when you're watching the video later and take a still image. I got the best firework pictures from that when I went to a Diamondbacks game and they had fireworks at the very end. I just did the video and it allowed me to do a still shot. I can kind of like dial into when it had the beautiful burst as compared to me trying to take the picture and I'm like missing all of it. So anyway, have fun. I cannot wait to see what you guys share with this. Be sure to share it into Scrapbooking with Megan. Use the hashtag that's on the handout and we will plan to see you all next week. Thanks so much for joining me.